So you go there, obviously everything is different, like we've talked about. That's where obviously you grew more as a professional athlete. And then senior year comes along. Like, what's going in your mind your final year, because, the draft's coming up, you're going to be eligible. Was there any of that thought in your head? Like, you got to play, obviously, you got to get the reps down. You're looking to win as well with Long Beach State, but at the same time, you got to think in the back of your head, like, my time's coming. This is what I worked for. Was there any, skepticism? Was there any, like, self-doubt in that regard of, like, okay, this could be it for me, but at the same time, like, my dream could be right around the corner as well?
Yeah, and I was actually a junior school-wise, but a redshirt sophomore eligibility-wise. So I had 3 more years if I really wanted it to stay. So I had a lot of leverage going into the draft. I was still kind of new on the scene. A lot of the big name draft picks played in Cape Cod in the summer league, the famous summer league the summer before. I didn't get to do that. So, I was on a great team and I pitched well. So I got a lot of exposure through that. Plus we made the playoffs. So I got to pitch in a regional, against Cal, and I did really well. We won that game as a playoff game. So I think that was also a big jump for me. But I used to joke with my teammates, we'd always talk about this, like in our draft year, every time you pitch well, that's like okay, you're moving up another round possibly, or you get more money, so we were all competing for that as well. So, I mean, if I didn't get drafted high enough, I could have came back as a redshirt junior, probably would have been the Friday night guy. So I may have even gone higher the following year. So, but I kind of knew everybody was going to go that was my age, like my class was going to get drafted. I didn't really want to come back with a team that was a little bit less than what we were having. So I was ready to sign, and luckily I pitched well enough to get drafted.
And how was that day for you? Because, you hear those stories all the time with athletes, whether, any sport, baseball, basketball, football. Draft day comes, some people weren't even in the area, they get a call. Some people obviously have like a draft party waiting to get their name called. Some people throw parties and their name doesn't get called. You've seen a lot of those. So what was it like for you that day? Like, were you anticipating it? Because again, like, that's your lifelong dream right there. Like, this is what you've worked for the past several years.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to be a first or second rounder. Like, my projection, from what I heard from, the agency that I was going to work with, they were saying, 4 to 7 was the range I was going to go. But even watching the draft that day, it was stressful, man. And by the way, unless you know you're going to be a first rounder, don't have a draft party until you know when you're going to get drafted. So I agree with you there. Once like the 3rd round came and the 4th round, it's like I didn't get drafted. Even though I didn't think I'd go, it was stressful, man. So I had to leave. I just started literally driving around the neighborhood, just waiting. And then luckily when I came back right before I got picked in the 5th round, and so, we were watching it, following online, and, I got picked and my family was there. We all freaked out. It was great. So, and then we had people over that night after I got drafted. So, it's, oh man, just the build up leading up to it, man. There's so many people in your ear, you're filling out questionnaires for scouts. You're getting phone calls, the day before. Will you sign for this? Will you sign for this? Like, all these teams are posturing where they're going to pick guys, and it's definitely stressful. But once you get picked and you know where you're going, it's you're going to let it all out.
So, I mean, yeah. Have you ever been to a party like that, like a watch party where you're kind of just sitting there anxiously, like, man, I hope he gets picked, because like we're all sitting here like,
yeah. I've never been to one of those, but I can imagine, like, sometimes it's like, especially the people that they get fed a lot of information. Oh, you're going to be a first rounder. And then it's like, okay, there goes a second. Okay, there goes a third. And it's a tough, like I said, unless you know for sure you're going early, don't have a draft party set up right away.
That's got to be tough. Like you said, a lot of people, calling you, a lot of people in your ear telling you what could go down, what could not go down.
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard to trust anything that anybody says. Like, in that moment when you're talking to all these people, are you buying into what they're saying, or are you smart enough to realize like anything can happen in this moment?
I think it's hard because you start, you hear so much, you just get so much information, you start to believe certain things, and whether they know what they're talking about or not, Plus, maybe like, these scouts that are watching people, they turn in their list of guys they like to the front office on draft day when they're doing their prep. But so much can go down day of, so you really never know when you're going to get picked. Even if the scout that's like your regional guy says, oh, we're going to take you, we're definitely going to take you. You don't really know for sure. So it's always up to chance until you get picked.
So who did you actually get a call from when you get because you got drafted by Seattle, right? The Mariners call you. Who actually, calls you and you pick up the phone and actually talk to them? And
so the scout that signed me, a guy named Tim Reynolds, he's signed me. So he was the scout that drafted me. And what's crazy is I barely talked to Seattle during the process. I think this happens a lot. Like the team you talk to the most doesn't end up picking you. It's really odd how that works, but I think, they liked me middle of the year and they kept following me, and I don't know. So I was their guy in the 5th round. So the scout that signed me, he gave me a call. So it was cool.
What was that shell shock moment like? Again, going from college, it's more about, obviously setting yourself up, but more of a team atmosphere. Now you're in the business. And in minor league baseball, again, I asked, athletes all the time, you went through it as well. Minor league baseball just seems like it's a grind, right? Like you're going from town to town, bus to bus. You're paying for your own rent in a sense as well. Like there's just a lot that goes into it that could make people just, I feel like, be like, okay, I got to do something else. Like I got to support myself a lot better than what I'm doing now, because you're on the road all the time and you have to support yourself. I feel like, is it different now? I don't even know the rules there with minor league baseball, but I feel like that's something that they got to help you out with.
I think the minor leagues is extremely, the players are extremely underpaid. Like it's ridiculous. You got some of the best players in the country playing, going to crappy hotels, staying in podunk towns basically. So I had someone ask me this the other day. I think that Major League Baseball should pay for housing, or the teams should pay for like a dorm room setting or something where all the guys could live, a big house or something, like a couple houses. Because to make guys pay for rent when and pay for food and all that stuff and gas and all that, and you're making less than minimum wage, it's completely ridiculous. So I think, and they sell you on you'll get paid when you make it. Well, only 2% of the 2% end up making it. So it's a tough gig, man. And, coming from college, it's different. Like I never played with players from Latin America before. It's a culture shock with them too. So you have to get used to the different dynamics of the team. And now you got all the best college and high school players playing together. So seeing how you stack up, and I feel bad for the high school kids. I mean, I do and I don't, because they've never been away from home before. The college guys get to be on their own. You're 21 years old, you're a little bit more mature, you live, responsibilities, all that stuff. Your high school draft pick, man, it's a freaking different world. So, to answer your question, the minor leagues is a grind. It's tough.
Oh my God. And I guess that's kind of a motivation factor on the MLB's part. Like, yeah, we're not going to pay for you, but if you want this, work hard enough and you'll get there once you get to the pro level. Like once you get to the show, things will change.
Well, you realize a lot of it's out of your hands though. Like I can't call myself up to the next level, and there's 5-6 levels of the minor leagues I got to get through. So I have no control over getting called up or not. It's, does the organization value you enough or have an investment in you to push you through? So that's probably the most frustrating part, is you have zero control of your career. And sometimes guys get called up and you don't think they should, and mentally staying with it and knowing you have no control over that, it gets to be really tough mentally when you start seeing guys go up and you're like, I'm pitching better than this guy. So it's hard.